Okay.
You ready?
Yeah. When you throw it in the board, give me like a second.
Will do. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us back here in the auditorium. I'm sure the rest of our friends are on their way in. I hope you had a good lunch and great morning sessions. So for those of you who I have not had the pleasure of meeting yet, or maybe you just came in around lunchtime, I am Jennifer Coffey, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Executive Director of NJDEP. And I want to take a moment as we gather back together here in the afternoon for our 50th Annual Environmental Congress and just offer a special thank you to NJDEP staff, because without them, none of this is possible and I would be insane. So they are amazing. I want to thank Elizabeth Ritter, who I see down here, lots of them who are out front, who are busy making this event happen. I also want to offer a very special thank you to our board. Many of our members are here, so I see them. So if you're here, if you could stand up and we can offer you a thanks as well. I know some of them are working out in the big room. And I want to offer a very special thanks to our newest leadership at NJDEP, our Emerging Leaders Council. And I know we have a few members who are here who are helping us to bring in the next generation of environmentalists, and we'd ask them to stand. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here with us. And we're warming back up for some wonderful afternoon sessions. And let's just start off again by thanking our sponsors who are here with us today. Many of them are speaking and they have tables sharing with us the work that they are doing for our environment, for climate change, for energy and recycling, and all of the things that we care about. So thank you to our business sponsors, and a very special thanks to our nonprofit sponsors who stand with us not only here, but at environmental commissions in Trenton with the press, trying to educate the public, getting stronger laws and regulations passed. So it takes a real village, and we've got a pretty good one. So I want to thank all of our nonprofit friends as well. Yeah, they deserve a big plus. And if you haven't come to visit us in our mini resource center, that's the room right across from the cafeteria. That's room 123. So that's easy to remember. Come and pay us a visit if you're looking for model ordinances or education or just a little emotional support. We're there for you. So come stop by. If you have not collected your award yet from this morning's Achievement Awards, you can find it in that room, and we're happy to take some photos with you if you'd like to share or not share, but we'd love for you to share them on social media as well. We want to remind you that NJDEP really is here for you for whatever your needs are for healthy communities in the environment. We offer small grants programs. We have technical resources, education resources, workshops, webinars, and of course, our Environmental Congress. So we thank you very much. We also need you. We need you as partners. We have approximately 300 active environmental commissions across the state of New Jersey, so out of 564 municipalities. And we want to remind you that for many of you, your municipalities are on a calendar year budget season. So there are all kinds of different budget seasons. There's federal budget season, state budget season, calendar year. So for those of you who are on a calendar year, make sure you are preparing your budgets and you get your request into your township committee. And we ask that you consider any grants that you are managing or plan to apply for if you need matches for those grants. Any stewardship projects that need tending to over the 2024 calendar year. And of course, we'd ask that you consider being a member of NJDEP, because your membership enables us to stay connected with you, to build a community, and also offers the opportunity for us to continue to bring these events to you. So if you need any help putting together a budget, then you can just contact us at info@njec.org. And last but certainly not least, NJDEP is a nonpartisan 501c3 nonprofit. We do not endorse candidates for election, but we can and we will remind you to please vote. because every vote matters, and the people who we have in office who are willing to be champions of our environment and for healthy communities are incredibly important to getting this work done. The work you do on the local level, we work to elevate to the statewide level. And without the right people in office who are sensitive to healthy communities and environmental issues, it becomes, if not impossible, very, very difficult. So please remember to do your research on your candidates who are running and to vote on November 7th. And New Jersey makes it even easier now because we've got early voting. So with that, I'm going to close out this presentation, and I am thrilled to start the presentation for our municipal recognition. We had our achievement awards this morning for our environmental commissioners. And a few years ago, we started a municipal leadership award because we wanted to really recognize the champions who were elected officials in office that were working with their environmental commissions to move projects forward that made a difference in their community. And the key for this award is that the environmental commissions either have to nominate or endorse these officials. So it's really a pretty special award to make sure that they've got the EC backing. And so with that, as we did this morning, I'm going to ask these elected officials to stand in their place and we'll recognize them. And I encourage you to look at the full program, to use that QR code that is on the agenda and to read about the work they're doing. And maybe bring it to the attention of your elected officials in your town to say, hey, look at this great award. Look what isn't that awesome? So that we can let 1,000 flowers bloom. So with that, I would like to recognize Councilwoman Amy Switlick. Yeah, from the Township of Clinton in Hunterdon County. Thank you, Councilwoman. And then I would like to recognize Councilman William Boyce from the Borough of Old Tappan in Bergen County. Is he with us today? Okay. Oh, thank you. So we'll go backwards. Councilwoman Swiftly and Councilman Boyce and Mayor Robert. You guys are challenging me today. Jabowski, thank you for the assist. I know if I waited long enough. Mayor Jabowski from Audubon Borough, Camden County. Council member Marjorie Fox from City of Summit, Union. And finally, Councilman Dean Gumetti from Sparta Township in Sussex. One of our favorite things to do is to recognize officials who are in partnership with their environmental commissions. And there are a few of those officials this year who actually were environmental commissioners. So that's the dream, right? That you serve on, I see some of our officials nodding, that you serve on your EC and then you become elected so that we get real champions in local government. And from the ground up, from grassroots up, we make a difference and we make New Jersey the leader that it has been for 50 years and will continue to be for 50 more years. So with that, before I introduce our commissioner of DEP, we have a very special award. And this is, as I introduce myself, I say I am the current executive director of ANJAC and have that privilege. ANJAC has had some incredible executive directors. And not least among them is Ms. Sandy Batty. So I'm thrilled to have her here with us today, but hang on, Sandy. We're presenting her with our Candace McKee Ashman Legacy Award. Candy, as we know her, was ANJAC's founding executive director, appointed in 1976. And we are thrilled to have this award in her name. She was with us in 2019, the last time we were in person before the pandemic, to present the award to her friend Jim, as she called him. And we know him as Governor Florio. And so here we are today to recognize Sandy, who was with ANJAC for 23 years. And to do that is her very good friend, Ms. Michelle Byers, who's going to come up and tell us a little bit about Sandy. So Michelle is someone who's a mentor to me, who was a longtime executive director of New Jersey Conservation Foundation, still part of the Anjac family, presenting here earlier today. And so Michelle, if you would please come up. And Michelle is also a former, a past awardee of the Candace Ashman McKee Legacy Award as well for her leadership. So thank you, Michelle. Thank you.
Well, this is wonderful. Congratulations on the 50th Congress. That's like amazing. 50 years. And I was a Jackie for a couple of years. Before Sandy came to Anjac, I was on the staff. So we go back a long way. Candy was my boss at the time. And then I went to New Jersey Conservation Foundation, and Sandy came on at Anjac. So I've known her for a really, really long time. And I've always been incredibly impressed by her humility, her like incredible work ethic, her integrity. She always says, she always does what she says. She follows up, she gets things done, and she does it without any fanfare at all. Just an amazing, amazing person to be with. And I'm thrilled. I think this is the most fitting award for you, that it's in Candy's name and it's on the 50th Congress. And you really devoted your career to this organization. And you really so deserve this. But I also want to say, Sandy's a lot of fun. If you don't know that, I got to go on a retreat up in Knoll Farm with Sandy and Julia from the Highlands Coalition. I think Jim Waltman was there, Tim Dillingham, Tom DeLessio. I know I'm leaving some names out, but we had a weekend at this retreat where it was all organic food. We slept in yurts. We did walking meditation in the morning, and you couldn't speak at breakfast. You had to wait until we went up to the yurt and then had a gong ring before we could speak. And there was no alcohol allowed. So this is where Sandy comes in. Her daughter lived nearby, and her daughter would bring in cases of wine each night. We'd all sit by the bonfire with like little paper cups and hide it. But then at the end of the retreat, unfortunately, we left a big pile of wine bottles behind, so I think we got found out. But anyway, you just got to know how much fun she is, and how wonderful she is, and what a wonderful human being. And I'm just so proud of you, and I'm so happy that you're getting this award. Thank you. Yes. So here you go. Okay. I won't talk long, I promise. I just wanted to say thank you to Anjac. It means so much to me that this is the Candy Ashman Award. Candy was a colleague. She was obviously an environmental leader, but more than anything, she was my friend and mentor. And it meant so much to me, as well as to so many people in this state. So to have an award in her name is, to me, the most meaningful award I could get. And I just wanted to say how fortunate I feel that I've had the opportunity to work with the people I have in New Jersey, the Anjac staff, the environmental commissioners, and the state leaders that have been working so hard through all these years for the environment of New Jersey. You're all very special people, and I feel very privileged to have had the opportunity to get to know you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy, for your leadership for Anjac and the state of New Jersey, and Michelle as well. And with that, it is my great let me try again, strike that, take two. It is my privilege to now introduce our Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Protection, Mr. Shawn LaTourette. Shawn is born in New Jersey, went to Rutgers University, went to Rutgers Law School. He was appointed by Governor Murphy to the DEP in June of 2001. He has more than 20 years experience in environmental protection as an attorney, and his storied bio is in our program, so please do read it. I want to add that I do consider Shawn, hopefully you consider me a friend as well. Sometimes a pain in the tuchus, I get that. But Shawn and I have become friends and colleagues in the fight to not only protect New Jersey's environment, but to restore it. And he is a fierce advocate for better protections in New Jersey, not only in what you see in front of the press and all the public facing events, but in the mechanisms of inside government where things can get really challenging. So Shawn is a fighter for our environment, for our communities, and always jumps when I say, hey, would you? He said, Congress? And I said, yes. So it's wonderful to have him here today. And I really appreciate you taking the time out of what is your exceptionally busy schedule. So.
Ooh, can I use this?
Oh, you can. I should have mic'd you up. I know where that went.
I just can't sit still.
The clock you up on your.
Oh, look at this. Oh, everybody, and now I don't have to yell. I mean, you could, I would certainly make sure that you'd hear me. Oh, I see Charles Jenkins. Where are my other DEP family in the room? Every DEPers, stand on up. Yep. I am really, really lucky for a lot of different reasons. I'm raising two soon to be 13-year-old girls. Wish me luck. I'm lucky for that. And I'm lucky to have been born and raised in New Jersey and been privileged enough to go to college and law school and do some cool things. But I am especially lucky to have the partnership of more than 3,000 people at the DEP who have made the protection of our environment and the public health the cause of their lives. So to the few that are here, thank you, as always. It's fascinating to have come into public service from the private sector and before that, advocacy, and to have had an impression about what it is that government does, right? What is that? What do all those folks in that big, imposing concrete building in Trenton and many other facilities spread all across the state, what do they do? Why are they so hard on me? And how do I engage with these folks whose job it is, by the way, to be a little hard on you? To have had an impression about what that experience, what that experience of working with these often faceless, nameless, career public servants whose heroism is often not sung. What might that experience be like? It is nothing like I expected it would have been. And it is by far the most incredible and rewarding experience that I have had in my life. I hate to think at some point it might even come to an end. They'll have to claw me out of that office, although I'm rarely there. I have the real honor and privilege, really, of spending most of my time on the road all over the state or in the air, as I was this morning, surveying the coastal erosion up and down the New Jersey shore, which I want to talk to you a bit about today. And not just because it's top of mind. See, I wrote down the notes, Jen, and now I don't. There they are. What did she tell me? Oh, I have to say this. No, kidding. I get to see so much of our state, probably more than most other cabinet members, maybe not more than Diane Scicchetti, who is ensuring good transit across our state. But I get to see a lot of it, and I get to see the different environmental challenges and opportunities all across our landscape. And they are in fact different. And that is part of what makes the service that our environmental commission members provide to the communities that they serve all the more important. Because we could sit in that imposing government building in Trenton and think that we have really good ideas about environmental policy and environmental quality maintenance and improvement, or conservation and outdoor equity. We may think we have all of the policy solutions that would help a community thrive, for folks to enjoy the environment that we all share. But we'd be wrong. Not that we'd have good ideas, we surely do. 3,400 people who have studied and served our environment their entire careers undoubtedly have good ideas. But the local, the hyper-local experience that our environmental commission members have are critical. That our understanding of that experience and the needs of our communities is critical for us to provide the services that we hope will reach every corner of the state. And in part, that is what makes me glad to take part in this Congress, and that we have so much DEP representation here, so that we are reaching out to you, so that we understand your needs and your capabilities, and so that you can better understand ours and how they plug together. In fact, that's what the foundational statute that created the environmental commissions requires, because lawyer, and you can never get rid of it, as hard as you may try. And so that integration is really critical. So I'm going to ask Keona Miller to stand up, because if you do not know Keona Miller, you must. Not only because she is an incredible human being and a councilwoman in her community, but because she manages our Office of Local Government Assistance. She is your gateway into the DEP. Whatever you need, call Keona, seriously. And she'll get back to you promptly. She'll tell me that I'm terrible at picking up the phone. But seriously, we recently established, we've done a lot of reorganization of DEP under my tenure, which is on the one hand exhausting to my chief of staff and COO, and many of our colleagues, but deeply necessary, because as times change, as needs and environmental conditions ebb and flow, you need to think structurally about the organization that is meant to serve the public health and the environment, whether it is tooled and organized to do that work in the best way possible. So we've done a lot of reorganization, and in doing so, one of the programs that we established at DEP is called the Community Investment and Economic Revitalization Program, because yes, DEP does that, right? Because that's what environmental and improvement and natural resource conservation has always been about. Because how well we care for the public health and the environment that we share is in fact an economic and community development imperative, right? Because you can't have healthy people and good commerce without clean water or good tree cover. And so this program houses many of the functions that directly serve our local communities, not all, but many, including our Green Acres program, including our local government assistance office under Keona's leadership, including the Community Collaborative Initiative, which is a specific place-based program where we work in tandem, in place, in communities with community leadership, and many other features of our work to improve communities through our conservationist and natural resource investment abilities, like our Office of Natural Resource Restoration and our State Historic Preservation Office, all within this ambit. And it is full of opportunities that local government leaders, environmental commission members should understand and talk to us about, and ask Kiona and her team to help you navigate, because there is a lot of opportunity available through DEP to assist each of your communities in their work. So again, collect Kiona's card, overwhelm her inbox. It's okay. And she really is truly a fantastic person to know, aside from all she can help you achieve. So there are a couple of priorities that I wanted to share with you all, and some reflections on our progress on some of these priorities. And I don't want to fill the time with my talking. I'd love to have discussion and engagement with each of you. So start getting your questions ready. I became a law professor this year, and so I don't know everybody in here, so I can't call on you, but I do find that kind of fun. But let's see hands instead. Now, there are a couple of key priorities that if you've ever been to the DEP website and you looked at our principles and our priorities, you would see very clear as day. They're very broad. So, you sort of ask yourself what the question they mean. What does it mean to reduce and to respond to climate change? That's a big notion, but a key priority for us, right? What does it mean to protect New Jersey's water resources? Lots of different things. That is another key priority. To ensure that we have thriving communities, right? Big propositions, right? You went to this page, you look at our priorities, very big, lofty goal setting. And that's important, right? But setting goals doesn't actually do the work. So how do we achieve some of these goals, and what are our key sort of endeavors and initiatives in that vein? And I'm gonna talk about maybe 4 of them. I'm gonna talk a little bit about climate, and because it's everything. And I'll hit on a few initiatives in that piece. I really want to talk about flooding and resilience, which to my mind is part of the overall climate policy work that we are undertaking in the Murphy administration. I want to talk about parks and open space because, well, it's critical for climate, it's critical for health, it's all the things. And then a bit about water as well. And I'll do that quickly so that we can have lots of conversation. But so first on the climate front, right? The reality is the reality, and it's terrible, right? I'm not one to sugarcoat anything. It's really, really bad. And you only need to take the flight down the coast that I did this morning to see how bad it is. We started up at Union Beach off the Raritan Bay and made our way all the way. We went out by Old Bridge into the bay. Then we came all the way down the coast and back up, right? In part, this is a routine thing that we do through our coastal resilience and engineering division, because we maintain through cooperative partnership with the feds all of New Jersey's beaches. Well, not physically maintain them. We ensure that locals can in fact maintain them by making sure there's a beach at all, which is a real challenge in a changing climate, right? So you get to see from a bird's eye view some of the erosional forces that are affecting our coast in even relatively mild fall conditions when we have big storms sweeping the state, or even minor ones. The conditions we saw today were not as bad, thankfully, as the ones when I took this same coastal evaluation flight last year. So that's a good thing. But it's continuous, right? Continual and really severe erosional hotspots all throughout our state. And how we invest in making those assets, that natural infrastructure that is our coastline, how we make that stronger, it is an incredible challenge, both as a matter of policy and politics, as well as financial requirements. And so it struck me heavily this morning, the real struggles that we face. It also gives you a great bird's eye view about public access. Not everybody doing a great job if you've read the press lately, but we're here to make sure that a good job is in fact done so that the public has access to their beach, right? Everyone, because it, like all of our environment, belongs to all of us. Now, in the climate policy portfolio, we think of our work as pretty simple: reduce and respond to climate change, right? Sounds easy, a lot harder than that, right? How we reduce climate change means how we bring down our emissions, both as a matter of regulation and through a matter of incentives. And there's been a number of regulatory reforms and incentive programs that have been moving over the last couple of years, and we've made some progress in getting these regulatory changes in place, right? We now have a state cap on carbon that is regulatory, meaning that it is a mandatory cap on carbon from power plants or other stationary sources of pollution. That isn't necessarily part of a trading program, though we do that too, meaning you can't buy your way out of it. As the time comes and facilities age, they need to be improved upon or phased out. That is a pretty significant change from prior years, and the first time that the DEP acted to establish a limit on carbon at all. That is in a very narrow space in our our energy generation sector. And our energy generation sector in New Jersey, despite how people may feel instinctively, legitimately about power plants and power lines and pipelines in their communities, despite that, New Jersey has a very clean power generating sector, right? Meaning that we have virtually no coal left in the state of New Jersey. Our natural gas-fired power plants are cleaner than they've ever been, and these new rules will make them even cleaner, but it's a tiny slice of the pie, right? All of us here, we're the biggest slice. How we got here, right? Anybody not come by a car? Yep. We're the problem, y'all. We're the problem. And so how do we take that biggest piece of our emissions sector, 42% transportation, right? 42% of our greenhouse gas pollution or other climate pollutants are from the transportation sector. Getting that number down is excruciatingly hard. And of that 42%, 70-something% of it, almost all, the vast majority of it is from the passenger vehicle and light duty truck. Now, what does that mean? That means that we need to prompt change, right? Using market forces. And because the private market alone can't do the job, it never has, not in the environmental realm anyway, you need supportive regulatory reform to move us along, right? And so that's why one of the pending rules that I probably can't talk too much about because the lawyers will yell at me, is the Advanced Clean Cars rule that is pending right now, that is soon to close public comment, right? And this would slowly transition our marketplace to a more, not completely, because it's not a mandate, though, some folks will call it that because it's easy. But over time, it requires manufacturers to sell more electric vehicles into our state marketplace, right? Diversifies choice, doesn't eliminate choice, but it certainly does diversify choice more and more over the next 10 years, which, by the way, is where the marketplace is going. Because you want to know where I spent Climate Week? I spent Climate Week at the Javits Center on multiple panels sponsored by GM, right? Because this is the way the future is going. It's not heavy-handed government telling people all the things they can't do. But some folks believe that. It's on all of us, right, to make sure that at a minimum facts matter, right? that environmental conditions are a quantifiable, knowable, quantifiable, verifiable, and communication capable matter, right? So politics doesn't matter. This is a nonpartisan organization, rightfully so, because it's not red or blue, it's all green if you do it right. So how do we make sure that we're communicating these things accurately? To the extent that any of you, when you're doing your work in your communities, need help in doing that, need to make sure that you have the right information, whether it's about a regulatory program, whether it's about a grant opportunity to help motivate the kind of change we need to see, call Kiona, right? Burn in her inbox. We will help you. It is our job to help you, right? So yes, we got to keep working on bringing down these emissions, right? And through many more measures than just focusing on transportation and power plant related emissions, but also how we ever so slowly transition our building sector, which is the third leading problem, right? The energy generating sector almost doesn't make the cut in the biggest problems when it comes to climate, right? I mean, they're big and undesirable features of the landscape, depending on who you ask. But the changes that we need are so much more personal. And those are the ones that are always the hardest to attain, right? It is easy, in a way, to advocate against something, right? It is easy to advocate against that pipeline or that power plant. And I don't mean to defend them by any stretch of the imagination. But it is much harder to advocate for something. And it is even harder to advocate for individual people to do something different than they've always done. Just ask my husband, who I had to really work over to get him to purchase an electric vehicle, despite the $12,000 he got off the price tag because of state and government programs that will make it just as affordable as your typical commuter car. So it's hard. It's hard to get people to do things differently than it's ever done. But that's also why there's you, and why we want to help you in making sure that you have the tools you need to communicate what are large environmental and energy and natural resource policy imperatives down to a more micro level, to that hyper-local level. We are here to help you with that. The other side of our climate work has to do with our response, right? How do we respond to the fact that the climate is continuing to change, and that even if we did turn off all of the power plants and if all of the cars were electric, it would still get bad. A lot more worse. A product of the emissions that we've already poured into the atmosphere, right? Because environmental problems, whether it's climate or a brownfield site or the mob in the trash business, environmental problems take a long time to materialize. And then they take an even longer time to correct. So even once we get to net zero, and it will be a long time, right? We set lofty goals of 2050 and then we lower them to 2040 or to 2035, and we're in a competition for ambition, even though ambition doesn't do the thing, right? The work on the ground level, that work that you do, that's what does the thing. It still gets bad, right? It gets bad because the Earth's response to all of that warming, even after the warming stops, will continue for decades. And so what does that mean? It means that we have to prepare all of our communities to be more resilient to the fact of those conditions. Higher heat, right? Hottest July on record this summer. It will get worse. I'm sorry, but it's the truth, right? Extreme precipitation, which we've already seen. Whose community has flooding problems? Raise your hands, please. Yeah, it's New Jersey, right? We're a water-rich state. Well, sometimes. And that means that we get punished with a changing climate and greater precipitation and undersized infrastructure, except Charles Jenkins is going to fix it all. Charles, say hi. From our municipal finance program in the New Jersey Water Bank, which is a DEP apparatus. Now, what does that mean? We got to build greater resilience, right? It sounds again like this sort of lofty, big proposition. Sure, we're gonna be stronger than a storm. No, we got to be smarter than it. Really, we got to be smarter than the storms that are worse and will get even worse for many decades to come. And we have to be conscious of it. We have to not be scared of the science or to share the facts, right? And all of that information is available to you from DEP. Ask Kiona, she'll share it. If your environmental commissions have not read the New Jersey specific scientific report on climate change, y'all not doing your jobs. So make sure they read it, right? Make sure that folks understand what the climate reality is, because we did that work of taking the global, assimilating the information on a global level, on a regional level, and we brought it down to the state level so that our communities, our environmental commission members can understand what climate change realities mean for us here on that local level. That report will tell you. And that information in and of itself is powerful. It can help to motivate change. You could look at it and think, my God, we're in for it and there's nothing I can do. Don't do that. No. You're part of government. It is incumbent on government to offer people hope. And there is hope, but there's hope through action, right? Doing the hard work of updating our stormwater ordinances, right? Making sure that we are putting in place on the local level the wise constraints that will better protect our communities, so that as we build new assets, as we are ensuring that our communities grow and thrive, we're doing it in a smarter way, right? We're preparing to manage more rainfall. We're preparing to manage for more heat. We're creating opportunities to promote and facilitate the type of infrastructure that's going to help us, right? Because there's an important reality about existing environmental, regulatory, and local land use structures. In many ways, they're meant to ward off the things that we've realized over time are not so great, or to ensure that those things are done better, right? So whether it's the National Environmental Policy Act and the type of reviews that are required, like an EIS when you're building big infrastructure, right? All of that is meant to constrain the potentially negative externalities of development. It does not help to facilitate the type of development that is necessary to help us reduce climate change and respond to climate change. And that's an important reality that at the local level, our town councils and our land use boards and our zoning boards need to understand, and you all can help them understand that we need to adapt those local regulatory mechanisms to be more facilitative of the climate resilience that we need and the climate mitigation that we need, whether it's helping to facilitate clean energy solutions, or if it's helping to facilitate the development of flood protection infrastructure, right? We can't treat all of those types of things that we deeply need, and we need them fast. We can't facilitate them through the same old regulatory schemes, right? And that's part of why we've been on a reform agenda at DEP. It's part of why one of the more recent things that Charles and his colleagues have done through our water bank is to provide to all users of our water infrastructure funding program resilience guidance, right? There's one thing that you may, if your community is pursuing new water infrastructure, whether that's to get bad stuff out of the water or to manage more stormwater or better manage wastewater, there's now a guide for building resilient water infrastructure that is conscious of this changing climate so that we're not using backward-looking data and information as an indicator of what to expect in the future when we know that future is going to be vastly different because of our climate reality, right? These are knowable things. And we've got to get comfortable with the degree of uncertainty that comes with that. Maybe it could be not as bad as, the climate scientists are saying, right? Maybe it could be. Is that a reason not to act? No, right? But it may be a reason to design those ordinances more flexibly, right? We've got to get used to a different way of doing things as government, right? Just as we are telling residents that they too should begin to consider different ways of doing things in order to benefit us all. Two other things that I want to hit on with respect to our open space and parks endeavors, which is two things in particular. Number one, Martha Sapp and the team from our DP Green Acres program are here. You should be talking to them if you haven't already, because we are about to open a new funding round for open space and parks, parks development opportunities, acquisition opportunities, and there are tens of millions of dollars for us to give away to you, because that is a pretty cool part of our job, right? And we've made a number of changes to the Green Acres grants application program that Martha could certainly talk to you about in more detail to help ensure that we're meeting communities where they are, that we're holding folks accountable for the good projects that they say they are going to develop with the money that comes from all of us, because this is, state tax generated revenue, right? We want to make sure that everybody gets their fair share. And how we go about meeting these other priorities as we're acquiring and developing open space and recreational amenities for our communities. How can we, at the same time we are creating that new open space asset, also help to promote climate resilience, help to diminish the effects of urban heat islands, for example, expand tree cover. You want to make sure that you're being attentive to those issues, and Martha and her team can certainly help. There are also a number of things that we're working on the state level. To the extent that any of you are users of our state park system, and I certainly hope that you all are, DEP has the cool responsibility of managing those assets, and we're on a streak of expanding those opportunities. Last year, we did, through my crazy reorganization tear, we launched the Urban State Parks Administration, coming from this acknowledgement that in open space constrained communities, park assets are used and oriented differently, and that if we as the state want to make sure that the opportunities we're able to provide reach everyone, we also need to reach into our densely populated communities. So you may have heard of the Greenway, which is a 9-mile linear right-of-way, former railway, that stretches from through many communities in Essex and Hudson counties, from Montclair to Jersey City. The Greenway is going to be New Jersey's 52nd state park, right? Very cool. many opportunities for public engagement if those are your communities, one of them being next week. And we're also working a very closely held passion of mine to revitalize Liberty State Park in Jersey City, working to clean up long contaminated areas and bring more than 200 acres of previously inaccessible area online for the public. There will be a public session for the design of elements of Liberty State Park next week as well. And we're also breaking ground because it's so real and tangible and happening, which is just an incredibly rewarding moment for those who have worked at that type of work for many, many years. And so I hope to see some of you there celebrating that moment as we start the cleanup and begin to create New Jersey's Central Park. That's what Liberty State Park will be, honoring our history and the waves of immigrants that found ultimately their homes in this new country, because when they came off of Ellis Island, Liberty State Park was the first place they went, boarding the trains that would take them ultimately to the destinations and communities they'd call home. So we're going to lean into that history and its diversity and serve our host community and practice that measure of environmental and outdoor equity that I know we all hold in our hearts. But it is one thing to hold principles of equity and justice in your heart, and it is another entirely to operationalize them. And so we hope that Liberty State Park and its revitalization will be an example of that. I'd love to take some questions if I'm allowed.
Yeah, about 10 minutes. I'm loud enough, but we are recording. So because we are recording, just as we did this morning, I'd like to ask folks to come to the microphones. We've got about 10 minutes. So I just want to thank our commissioner for spending so much time with us today and for taking a few questions.
Thank you.
So let's start on the right-hand side. We might need to turn that mic on. There we go.
Hi, Commissioner. I'm your best friend that you always see all the time.
It's good to see you.
Yes. And you know I'm going to talk about my favorite topic, the environmental chemical PFAS. And what I want to know is when the DEP is going to get the guts to not only ban the chemical, but to regulate, monitor, and to require testing of any chemical that's made to make sure it's not PFAS. That's number one. Number two, the fact that 3M and DuPont have made a very meager, very small settlement, which is not going to be nearly enough to take care of all the PFAS issues in the state of New Jersey or around this country. I want to know where the money's going to come from, because I can see that some MUAs are going to go bankrupt because of the cost of PFAS. And maybe that's the point of getting them gobbled up by for-profit companies. Because I'm trying to think, how is it fair that the victims are paying for this, and you might as well say the perpetrators are getting off with a slap on the wrist? What was my third thing? Darn it.
Let's keep it at 2 for time.
Well, first of all, it's always good to see you, and I appreciate these questions. Though we've discussed them multiple times together in different forums, maybe some of the folks here haven't heard that discussion between us before. So first and foremost, when are we going to ban PFAS? So there are thousands of PFAS, right? So there are thousands of them. One thing that I would point you to, if PFAS is an issue that this group is, anyone in this group is attentive to or tracking, go to my my Twitter, my God. Okay, whatever we're calling it this week. Go to my Twitter profile. Just scroll down a little bit. I shared within the last week or two a new rulemaking from the Environmental Protection Agency, where it's in their toxics registry program, where they are collecting the data and information, which is the first step, right, in order to determine risk profile and then move down a regulatory path. Now, the folks that I know at EPA now today would say we should have done this a long time ago. I agree. They have the power to do that. The states do not, right? And so we needed them to do this long ago. I am glad that the Biden-Harris administration is doing it now, and we're going to engage with them regularly while they do. One of my top scientists, who has been a national leader in PFAS identification and led us to be the first state in the nation to set a single PFAS standard, is on the EPA Science Advisory Board and will be engaged as that process unfolds, but it does take a long time. In the meantime, there are pieces of legislation pending in our legislature on this very topic. Although my guess on how those would be received, there may be some commentary by the federal government about preemption in these legal things. I agree with you on there not being enough money. Those, importantly, the settlements you mentioned were settlements nationally from these class actions. They are not the New Jersey specific PFAS litigation that was filed in 2019. For those of you who I know before know that I came to DEP in 2018, and my job then was chief counsel. I was hired to start those lawsuits. That was the reason I came into the Murphy administration. And there's not a chance that I will let them off the hook. What's the next question?
Thank you. Thank you. Let's go to this side.
Thank you very much. Everybody in the room here is an advocate for the environment, and environmental commissions. We have quite a tough task, really, with our township committees and local politics. I just wondered what your thoughts are on how you could give environmental commissions more teeth, so that we're not having to respond to the whim of our local politics.
Oh, how do we give me more teeth so that I'm not just responding to the whim of our state politics, right? This is the eternal question, right? In many ways, right? For whatever reason, environmental and adjacent imperatives are often seen as some kind of a threat or at best, a nice to have, but not a necessary. And, that's born of, bad politics and terrible PR and decades of misunderstanding and misappreciation of what the modern environmental, legal, and regulatory landscape even is. So, I'm sorry? Well, that's one perspective. But the best thing I have found, the strongest weapon against that deep, deep, deep misunderstanding is education, is sharing as much as possible, as frequently as possible, what the realities are, and being doggedly persistent in that approach. To never give up or be dissuaded or be left feeling some measure of despair because others may not care as much about environmental imperatives as folks in this room, but to not feed into that misunderstanding and that politicization of environmental issues, because there is one reason that it comes down to, that we protect the environment and natural resources at all. And that reason is public health and safety. You dig underneath any environmental policy anywhere, and it is because that policy, whether it's getting the PFAS out of our water or building canopy to protect us from heat, is because of a public health and safety need and agenda. And folks misunderstand that. They think environmentalism, oh my God, I got to go deal with these tree huggers. They just care about these lofty blue sky principles. No, it is the protection of public health and safety and the environment we share. Public health and safety first. That message resonates.
I would also encourage you, if I could just add, Senator Smith will be with us at 4 o'clock, and to ask him that very question, because I've got some ideas on how to give environmental commissioners more teeth. So we could work with the legislature on that. I'm going to shift us into the lightning round now and apologize just for time. We're going to do one quick question on each side. I'm sorry, Heather. And then we've got to move into our 3 o'clock session. So let's not do compound questions. Pick your most important, and then we'll do lightning round answers as well. Okay, Commissioner?
All right.
Sure. Is on, okay. Commissioner LaTourette, thank you. Dean Blumetti from Sparta Township, Environmental Commission, Town Council, Planning Board. Thank you for all you do. We all appreciate it. This is a friendly audience, of course. You referenced earlier the invaluable knowledge that local environmental commission volunteers have and the importance of integration with DEP work. We're all thankful for the DEP, of course. I would probably say I'm speaking for a lot of us as well, though, as EC members. We a lot of times would like to see stricter rulings coming out in terms of land use applications, permits, waivers, and all of that. How do you see us integrating more of a level of community concern, things that the EC sees locally with certain applications and requests that come into your staff? How can you help us incorporate our local knowledge to support your staff in terms of making them aware of some things they may not be seeing? You know, if they're all overworked, probably we're on the ground. We see it. We're calling things out in our reports to the council, to the planning board.
Yeah.
Any advice?
Yes, I have plenty, but in a lightning round fashion as I've been directed. So the first is just a point of understanding, right? ECs get to see lots of things that come before the land use boards and the zoning boards and the councils that the DEP never, ever sees. We are not a master land use authority. We see about 25% at best of the land use applications in the state because they implicate a statewide protected resource, a flood hazard zone, a wetland, et cetera, right? So you see a lot more than we do, right? Making sure folks understand that at the local level and are not expecting that the state will somehow have a say. You have way more say than we even do. And when you see some resolution come before you, as they all do, that says this is subject to anything the DEP says, the question you must ask is, have you talked to the DEP at all, Mr. Applicant? It will help.
I second that.
Okay. Thank you.
And we'll give our last question on this side.
Okay, Jen Tatora from Pittman Environmental Commission. So you talked about erosion along the coast, and it kind of reminded me of what we're going through with our lake. But my question with that is, how do you balance access and restoration to make sure that that both things are happening simultaneously and that everything is working as it should?
So if it's a lake community, certainly depends on whether or not that's a privately held asset, because lakes can in fact be privately held. But I don't see, I think that the short answer is I don't see a conflict between those two things at all. Access and restoration. There shouldn't be no conflict. Legally, there's not allowed to be a conflict.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of how you ensure if what we're talking about is design of coastal engineering projects or flood mitigation projects, it's how in that very process you are ensuring that access is a component. It may not be the inclination of every designer of pieces of natural or engineered infrastructure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if you've got more specifics on that, you can feel free to email us at info@anjac.org and we can talk it out. Let's give one more round of applause and thank you for our commissioner for spending so much time with us today. Yes, we'll take your microphone back. Thank you so much. Thank you, Shawn. See you soon. Thank you. And we are going to move into our 3 o'clock sessions. Thank you, Commissioner. We hope you have a good 3 o'clock session and then join us back in where we had lunch at 4 o'clock, and Senator Smith will be with us and we'll have some refreshments and some games. So enjoy. Thank you, everyone.